I'd like to welcome Mark Ishii. He is currently the Vice President of Pavement Preservation and Specialty Products for Ergon Asphalt and Emulsions. He's been employed with Ergon for the past 36 years, the last 33 of which have been with the Asphalt and Emulsion Division. Mark has experience in many aspects of the emulsion industry, including plant operations, laboratory testing, research and development, field applications, and product marketing. With Ergon's support, Mark also works with the asphalt emulsion industry at large. He served on the board of directors and as a technical director for the International Slurry Surfacing Association and is currently serving as vice president of the Asphalt Emulsion Manufacturers Association. Please join me in welcoming Mark Ishii.
Thank you, Clint. Good morning. How are we all today? How many enjoyed Tootsie's 56th birthday anniversary in the house? Great, nice. All right, well, I promise you can maybe take a nap during this if you need to. My pleasure, guys, to be here today. What a turnout. I know you guys have heard this before. If you've been to the meetings previously, you'll hear it again. What a testament it is to the evolution of pavement preservation that you guys are here and the numbers in which you're here. I don't know how close I need to be to this. I can't hear it, so you guys can give me some feedback. Keys to a successful pavement preservation program. Pleasure to talk again with you guys about this today. We're not going to be able to cover them all, right? It's one man's opinion as to what the keys are, and we're going to hit some of the keys. And I hope some of the things probably might make some of you mad. I don't know if you don't agree, but we all don't agree on everything, right? So we're going to give a perspective. Not going to cover it all. Obviously, we could stand here for 2 or 3 hours and talk about what's key to pavement preservation. And your guys' perspective will be different from mine. But one thing that we know for sure is that every Department of Transportation in North America and frankly around the world, and thousands of cities and counties and consulting engineers, associations and groups are employing pavement preservation treatments. So we can all take great pride in that, but that's not a pavement preservation program, right? There's a difference between a program and applying pavement preservation treatments. Many of these agencies have a pavement preservation program. Our taxpayers have saved untold millions of dollars, and the untold part is probably what we need, a lot of us working toward doing a better job of telling the untold story. How much money has been saved over the last 20 years of implementing pavement preservation. What got us to the point that we're at today, at least in my opinion, stagnant funding really put a lot of pressure many years ago on agencies, on you guys, most of you guys here in the audience, to spend your, what are you going to do with your monies? How are you going to cover the roadway network that you have in front of you with the money you have that's not increasing while prices continue to escalate? And while internally your costs, admin costs and things like that continue to escalate. So the stagnant funding actually results in a rising market, results in less monies to work with. You guys all know this. So that, at least in my opinion, combined with a very deep recession, a very long, slow recovery, has given people a lot of trouble, but it's also given pavement preservation an opportunity to be seen over time. It's no longer is it a flash in the pan. We've had repeat success of applications, and to me, that's one of the keys to acceptance is being able to see a treatment more than once, and to see various treatments. And I think we've been willing to do that now on a larger scale, as testament to the size of the audience here for this Congress. So we don't want to go back, right? And again, to me, we're at a critical point when you look at the growth the pavement preservation industry's had over the last, say, 10 or 15 years is pretty phenomenal. The rate of growth is increasing. Just the rate of growth in the last 5 years dwarfs what it was in the 5 or 6 previous. And the next 10 years could be a great and dramatic improvement on top of that. Or we can go back to where we were. I'd say we can't go back. So why can't we go back? So 3 good reasons why we might not go back. We have well over a decade of success, really closer to 20 years of success with pavement preservation. The taxpayers now are more used to us being more responsible with their money, right? We're all taxpayers, and most of you in this room are charged with dealing with those taxpayer monies in an expeditious and efficient manner. And there's never going to be enough money to go back to the way we were doing things. We just don't have the money. There may be 1% of agencies that have special funding or are fortunate enough to have the ability to mill and fill every time they need to do something. There's just not going to be enough money to go back. So I submit that these might be 3 good reasons why we don't want to go back as far as we were, but I think this is the real reason. Now, Mr. Peshkin, I can't envision you in a belted sweater or a matching hat for your sweater.
70s.
In the 70s, you know it well. But in the closet, many of you in your closet somewhere, deep, hopefully in the back of your closet. This is the type of stuff we were wearing, guys. We were wearing Afghans for shirts. And I'm from Mississippi. I know a lot about chickens. I have no idea what this gentleman is doing with that chicken. But he looks good doing it. He's got a great mustache. And again, we don't want to go back, right? So this is the type of stuff we were wearing back in the day. And this is what we were eating. Spam sticks, mayonnaise. And I've been accused on more than one occasion of having a drinking problem, but if you see me putting beef bouillon over the rocks, ladies and gentlemen, that person has a drinking problem. Can you imagine? This is how we talk to each other. This is the tools we had to work with. Floppy disks, 16-bit mega processors. Man, how sweet was that? You could play Pong. You could do addition and subtraction. And I promise you guys, if you blow cigarette smoke in a lady's face, an attempt as this, you probably can't read it. The advertisement says, blow in her face and she'll follow you anywhere. Guys, it's not going to work. If she's following you, you're not going to like what's happening. So things have changed for the better, and we need to continue to move forward. So to do that, we need a plan. And what we're going to talk about a little bit today could be considered keys for success to help sustain your pavement preservation program or help implement one. We're talking about agencies of all sizes, guys. The state DOTs and have probably obviously more resources. They're more steeped in pavement preservation, but county level, city level need to have pavement preservation concepts and plans also. They need it sometimes worse than the others, because the money is truly tight, especially in rural areas of our country. So the 4 things we want to talk about today, and again, we're not going to hit it all, but we'll hit some of it and we'll break it down a little bit. Communication, commitment, the network mindset, which is critical to pavement preservation, and participation we want to talk about just a little bit. And I'd like for you guys, if you want, to think about these in terms of best practices. We're going to see this afternoon, I invite all of you guys to come out to the demo. You're going to see some of you guys have seen these treatments, some of you hadn't. Get outside, get some fresh air, walk around, but we're going to see a lot of treatments. We're going to talk a lot about the actual treatments themselves. They all have best practices, and if we want to talk about an example of chip seal, for example, we need to get the emulsion or the binder needs to be at a certain temp. We need to get the aggregate on the binder at a certain time. We need to get the rollers at a certain time. It's not saying that it's going to fail if you're 30 seconds late, but what we are saying about best practices is the more of the best practices you can accomplish, the greater your chance for success. And the same with what we're going to talk about today. You're not going to be able to do all these things. You may not want to do all these things. Again, you may not agree with them, but the more of these things that you can do, the more you think about these things, the better your chance of success for the pavement preservation program. So communication with our funders. Without the money, guys, and you all know this in your home and everywhere else, without the money, it really doesn't matter what we do if we don't have any money. The guys that control the funding want to know what the result of their expenditures are. They have to justify that as well. They've got a lot of people pulling on them for that same pile of money. So we need to communicate with those guys. We need to teach them the basics of pavement preservation and what it is we're doing out there with what they think of as their money. We need to get involved with those guys and find out what their pain points are. How can we give them the information we need? Whether that's like, one of the hardest things in the world maybe is letting somebody take credit for your good work. But one of the most effective things in the world is letting somebody take credit for your good work. If that guy can, or those people can walk around and say, look what we've done, they're going to be way more likely to give you more money. And that's what it's all about. We've got to have the ease and the continuance of funding for pavement preservation programs. We need to communicate with our taxpayers. Again, they're us, right? They're just like us. We're paying taxes. They're paying taxes. We need to provide them direct access. Donald Reed here with the city of Nashville several years ago, when they were implementing their pavement preservation program, they had a hotline. And they promised the taxpayers it was on door hangers. It was printed everywhere. It was in the media. You had a number to call. And the person that answered the phone was a live person, of course, and they knew what they were talking about. They were trained. It was very effective, and it was used a lot. Appropriate media for your market. You know, social media is great, and I encourage everybody to do more and explore social media. It's a wonderful way to get bits of information out. But still, everywhere across North America and around the world, frankly, people are sitting with a cup of coffee reading their newspaper. And you have newspapers are starving for information. They'd love to print an article on your pavement preservation program in the county of, in the city of, or the state of. Not only there's a project going on Route 64, you may want to go a different way for the next 4 days, but what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how it's saving money. Follow up these with reports, progress reports to your taxpayers. Tell them how many miles of that network is treated, how much money of their money, of our money, you're saving, and the effect on local economy. We all know this intuitively, right? When a business comes to your local area looking to put a manufacturing facility in or move their business there, the first thing they do is they look at the transportation system, just like you would do if you were coming in. They've got concerns about people getting to work. They've got to get materials in. They've got to get materials out. If they see a good transportation system, a roadway network in good shape, they're far more receptive before they even get to the meeting. They're just driving from the airport to the meeting, right? And they've already made some pretty big decisions that it's going to be hard to move them if it's not favorable. So communicate internally within your group. We all see a lot of silos being built in private industry, in public agencies as well, and we all tend to do what we do. But we need to share that plan. We need to share the knowledge, and we need to share what's going on inside of our industry with other folks in the industry. The more proponents we have, the better it is, the easier it is. Plan for that transition. You're not going to be in that position for all your life. Somebody else is coming in. You're moving on to bigger and better things. And to plan for that transition so that whoever follows in your shoes doesn't have to start over is terribly important. Plan for the success of pavement preservation. It's not if you succeed. If you go about it the right way, you'll succeed. So let's get a plan going in the future. We're not looking at this as a one-year deal. We're looking at it as a 5, 6, or an 8-year deal that we're gonna evaluate this program. So plan for that success along the way, so that you're not surprised by it and the industry's not surprised by it. And importantly, work with other agencies that are similar to you in size, in mindset, in need, in resources. Work together with those guys. You can share knowledge, you can combine your resources and leverage that into a very powerful tool. Communicating with industry is vitally important. From industry perspective, it's vitally important, as I said. So what's new in the marketplace? You know, we can bring those things to you. You don't have to go out and search for them. You know, very much a big deal to us is how we can partner better. How can we work together better? Value engineering, especially from a contractor's perspective. These guys have been out there and done that. They know you might be able to save money a different way. Be receptive to that. Be considerate of that. And let's all talk about how costs can be controlled. We all make a living in this business from the industry's perspective. We have no desire to do anything more than make it easy and cost efficient and for you to do more, right? That's our goal. We're not trying to make money today. We're trying to make money and build businesses for the long term. So how can we control costs are very important. And you may think you know, and you might find some different perspectives about talking to industry, whether that's bid dates, combining jobs, combining the type materials that you're requiring. These things all need to be discussed and talked about, and you can learn from those things. And use the resources that the industry has. We will, almost all of us, will be glad to come and visit with you and ride the roads with you and talk about your issues and talk about your pain points and what you need and how we all might be able to work together to provide some solutions. So invite industry inside behind the curtain. I mean, let us know how you make decisions. Let us know who needs to, how these things work. We don't, I mean, it's not, you guys know it, you live it, we don't know it, right? We work differently. And so you need to invite us inside and vice versa. You guys need to come to the plants, you need to come to the labs, see how we do business. And we're open to that, and we should all be open to that. Learn from industry successes. There's been a gracious plenty of those. There's also been a lot of mistakes made. We can learn from those. You're going to make mistakes, guys. It's okay. Let's learn from them. Let's don't make them again. And we don't have to. We can learn from those. We can move on. And learn what's really important for the treatment that you're applying. Whether the road, just a couple examples, there's thousands, but if that road is released to traffic at an hour and 15 minutes rather than an hour, is that really that big a deal to long-term performance? It's not. It's an inconvenience that moment. How big a deal is it? Is the viscosity of my emulsion is 30 seconds high on a 400 spec? Is that really that important to the long-term performance? You know, do we shut jobs down? We'll get together and talk about those things is the point. Commitment is probably an easier thing to talk about than communication, because communication takes really hard work. Commitment of time, funding, and education. These things all overlap, as all these keys do. So time, as you all know, for a pavement preservation program, it takes a little bit of time to prove the success. Typically, it's longer than the election cycle, which is a problem for the politicians. They spent some money, they don't quite have the numbers yet, and the election's coming up, so we got to commit to that time. Funding has to be committed over the long term. Over that 3, 4, 5, 6 years, you got to have the funding. You can't go in fits and starts and expect to be successful. In education, committing to the education, and you guys are committed. I mean, I commend you again for being here, taking the time out of your schedules and the effort and the money, the resources that it takes to be here. So I commend you for that. You are committed and continue to be committed. So Edwards Deming is considered to be the father of total quality management. And he's the guy that helped the Japanese beat the American auto industry in the way they looked at things and the way they went their zero policy. But he said, without data, you're just someone with an opinion. So that sounds pretty harsh, perhaps, but really, there's a lot of truth to that. Without data, I can't tell you how many times I've been in neighboring counties, for example, and one guy says, I really like this treatment. It works for us. It's great. And the next guy says, that's horrible stuff. We'll never use it again. How can this be? Right? There's no data. They just have an opinion, and guys' opinions matter to the ones making the decision. So let's have some data. Let's try to get some data. And that's the network mindset, right, is generating data. The decisions on a network mindset are based on the whole of your roadway network, not on the parts. We don't want to focus on Cherry Street. We don't want to focus on worst first. You guys have heard that. You know that. It's old stuff, right? But we want to make our decisions based on what's good for the network. We want to keep score. We want to take inventory of our streets. We want to rank them. And it doesn't matter to me. Different agencies of different sizes have different abilities and different resources. You might buy an asset management program. You might have a sheet of paper. You might have 15 streets, might be all you have. And you might have 150 or 1,500, right? So, but it doesn't matter whether you're going red, green, yellow, 1 through 10, or a very complicated system of ranking. The important thing is to pick one and rank it. Know the score, keep score. It's not a game, it's serious business, but keep score. And keeping score makes you accountable, and it creates data. So work to understand the factors that affect that score. Treatments, when they're applied, what time of year, what type of materials, on what condition the pavements are, the cost against your budget. All those things affect what you can do. And the network mindset allows you to do these things. It allows you to measure the progress that you're making. It allows you to predict the effects of different strategies, which is a very important thing, to be able to work with a data sheet rather than going out on the streets and taking 2, 3, 4, 5 years and say, well, that didn't work, let's try something else. And you're just that much further down the road without progress. It allows you to affect funding considerations in that you can predict and you can show with data that you're meeting your promises, that you're meeting your goals, and again, making it easy for those funders to give you more money or to at least continue your funding. And allows you to plan for steady improvements over time so that the industry part of the community isn't adversely affected, and the contractors know how to gear up for the work over the next few years. They know how to plan their resources. It allows you to defend the decisions that you made It gives the politicians cover, and again, overlapping, we go back to the funding. The politicians, make it easy on these guys. Give them an easy out. Why we're working from the taxpayers? Why we're working on this road and not my road? My road's in terrible shape. This road's good. Why are we working on that? It gives you the ability to answer that, and you can show these guys, hey, look at your network. Look at the score. Look what we're doing with your tax money, and we're going to get to your street. Your street's in the queue. It's in the plan. It's 4 or 5 years from now. But look at how we're helping our community overall. And it helps us to maximize our taxpayer contribution, which again, we're all charged with. So the network mindset, the inputs are local. Whether you're in South Mississippi paying $2 for a chip seal, or North California paying $4.50 for a chip seal, is important as you work on your budget and you make your decisions as to how many miles, how many square yards, what can you treat, when should you treat it. Your materials are different. Whether you get, your climate obviously is very different. You might get 7 years in the southern climate out of a microsurfacing, you may only get 4 in a harsh climate in the northeast with snow chains. Very important as you're predicting your next strategies to understand these things, and the more you're able to implement local inputs, the more valuable a network mindset process is. There's 8 pages. This document's been around a while. Larry Gelhaus, who's here, most of you know Larry, and the late Jim Sorensen put this document together. It's 8 pages, and it thoroughly explains the concept of network mindset and pavement preservation. It's a great tool for speaking to the mayor, to the alderman, to the board of supervisors, to the governor, to the legislators, to everyone that is in your department, to the taxpayers, to help them understand what it is you're doing at a public hearing in a city of, for example. So this is available on the FHWA website. It's available for download on our website, other people's website. If you don't have a copy, you can't get a copy, contact me. I'll send you a copy. It's a very, very valuable tool and helps get through the mindset that we probably can't get to in the time we have today. So here's one of my favorites. We can't afford a failure. How many of you guys have heard that? Come on, come on, tell the truth. How many of you believe it? Well, a lot of us, right? And that's the big thing. We cannot afford a failure. Well, if that's true, what are we willing to do to prevent that failure from occurring? It's great to sit here and say we can't have a failure. What are we willing to do? What are you willing to do? And here we're talking about participation, guys. We've got to work together. Industry can't assure no failure. Agencies can't assure no failures alone, working alone. Academia cannot assure no failures working alone. We've got to work together. And this is an example of what I'm talking about. The best materials cannot overcome a bad contractor. We all agree? Any support? I have an amen. Amen. Thank you. The best contractor cannot perform using bad materials. I heard a contractor. And that's exactly right. He cannot, or she cannot. Poor specification, guys, will defeat the good intentions of the best contractors using the best materials. If you don't have a good spec, things aren't going to work out for you, no matter how hard they try. A treatment applied by the best contractor using the best materials and a great specification will not perform if site selection is poor. Do we agree? So what are we going to do? Are we going to take some time and effort to learn about these treatments and get the proper site selection down? It's crucial, guys. It's crucial. The best contractor using the best materials, a great specification on the perfect candidate, he won't even get the job if it's known that the agency doesn't participate. And I think we all understand that, right? If they know you're not going to be inspecting the job, you're not going to be testing the materials, you're not going to be requiring things, you're going to get the corner cutter is going to get the work every time. Every time. Agency participation is huge. Demand good work by not accepting bad work. I cannot tell you guys the number of times I've been on a job where the agency is not happy with the results, and I'll ask them, Mr. Agency, did you pay for this job? Oh, yes. Yes, we paid for it. Well, what makes you think that you're going to get anything different? If you had a contractor come to work on your house and did a really bad job and you paid him, and he comes back next week, is that going to work out? It's not. Develop sound specifications. Industry's here to help you do that. You have other agencies that are here to help you do that. Academia is here to help you do that. Calibration is huge. There's a million things that could fit in here, but these are the big ones, right? Calibrate the equipment that's being used on the job. It doesn't take long. These guys do it all day, every day. They know what they're doing. Calibrate it and be okay with the material that you're putting out. Know that. Inspect the work. I know it's hard and resources are tight, but you have to have inspection. And I also understand if we've got a $60 million bridge project and we've got a $1 million microsurfacing project, I know where the inspection's going, right? It makes sense. But drop by, at least. Let those guys know you're coming. Test the materials that my company sends, that my competitors send, that the aggregate industry sends. Test those materials. There's nothing more effective in the workplace than a random drug test, right? That really is effective, especially if there's a test here and there. It's very effective. At least pull samples. At least have a program to where those that are supplying to your project understand that you may well be testing that material and hold them accountable. The biggest thing I see that agencies need to do is to swing the hammer that they have. If you inspect the work, if you're not happy, if things are out of spec, if things are not going the way you want it, swing the hammer that you have. Every good contractor, every good supplier wants that to happen. It's the only way we level the playing field. Low bid process is brutal, guys. It's brutal in a competitive workplace. It's hard to breathe when you got guys that are able to cut corners and able to beat the agency along with the project as it goes along out of holding them responsible. Swing the hammer. We want it. We need it. Understand the treatments. We talked about that briefly. What the treatments available to you are. Industry, again, academia, again, is here to help you understand these things. Where we place them, when we place them, why we're placing them. What are the costs? How do we affect the cost? Is it a bid time? Is it a seasonal thing? Is it a continuation thing where people know they're going to have some work and they can give you a better price? What are the life extensions of a different treatment? How do you plug these things in? What are the advantages? And please understand that when you're doing reactive work, it makes a difference to the outcome. If I've got a road that I'm just trying to get 3 years out of and I want to put microsurfacing down because I know I'm going to fix this road, but I got to get it back together for the winter, it's okay. It's okay to do that, guys, but understand that's not a failure if it only lasts 2.5 years. It's not a failure, right? We're trying to do things that we shouldn't do. Or maybe not that we shouldn't do, but things that we got to realize have an effect, and they are different. Don't experiment recklessly with your treatments. Guilty, right? I-85 going through Montgomery comes to mind many times, wakes me up in the middle of the night. Shutting down the interstate and letting an emergency milling contract is not good. It's not good for industry, it's not good for the DOT, it's not good for the taxpayer, and it's not good for the market or a preservation program. So don't experiment recklessly. There's other ways. We could have done that 1,600 different ways rather than go with the confidence we had out to the interstate and make the mess that we made out there. Select your treatments thoughtfully. Understand there's no magic bullet. Because a treatment works well in a situation, if you understand why it worked well, that's crucial to making your next decision. We don't just start putting this stuff everywhere until we start finding where it doesn't work. Now we're creating failures. Again, what are we willing to do to stop that failure from occurring? And again, share that knowledge. And the last thing I'll challenge you guys with today is to keep a construction diary yourself rather than putting that on the contractor. I've spent many years in this business troubleshooting jobs and troubleshooting products. And I've been to many jobs in the next year or after the contractor's gone, after the job's been placed, after all the materials have been gone, exhausted, there's nothing left to test. What happened here, Ishi? I don't know. It's hard to tell. It could have been this, could have been that. It depends. I'm known for saying that. That's my tagline. It depends. That'll be on my tombstone, I think. It depends. I don't know. But can you show me some data from the job and maybe we can work through it? Well, I don't have any. You don't, what about the gradation of that ag? I know, we tested that first load when it came in, it was good. You know, what times was it done? You know, were you talking night work or day work? Sometimes they don't even know because the person that was there is gone, rotated off. We're all moving along and moving upwards and outwards pretty quickly. What the weather was on any particular day, Usually the failure is not a total failure, if we can call it a failure, the issue. Usually it's located, it's isolated, it's not throughout the job. You can track these things down if you know the application rates, know how fast they were returning it to traffic, know was the traffic control adequate, did they have a good plan, did they do a good job? These little notes by themselves may not point you directly to an issue, but in combination they can really help you get past a problem and on to a more successful event next time. Test results to keep those things, the equipment sequence, how long was that roller behind the distributor? How long did it take that rock truck to get out there? Were there breakdowns? You know, and you're going to find the more detailed you are on this, and it's hard work, somebody's got to be dedicated, that's your inspector, right? So what you're asking your inspector to do is not drive up and sit in his truck. It all looks good at 50 miles an hour. He needs to be active. She needs to be active in taking notes and helping you guys isolate the significant events. We had in Brownwood, Texas, we put a microsurfacing down many years ago, and 2 days later they had a parade with horse-drawn carriages and a rodeo right down the microsurfacing street, 130 degrees, and it hadn't had a long time to cure, and it dinged it up. They weren't very happy. We could have waited 2 days. There was a lot of work going on that project. We didn't have to do that street, right? So issues, they're going to be. What are the resolution of those issues? Keep those notes. And the special conditions, like we did it late season work and we had a cold front come through, got a cold rain 2 days after we laid the chip seal, right? It matters. Those things matter, but you got to take those down. So guys, it's up to us. We can choose the belted sweaters that that Peskin is favoring these days, Spam sticks for lunch, or we can continue the evolution of pavement preservation. It's really up to us. And my time's up today, and I really appreciate you guys coming in this morning. I put this up for questions because when I see this sign, it always makes me ask questions. I'm not sure what they thought those birds were going to do, but there they are. If there are any questions, I'll try to give you guys an answer. And yes, sir.
Yeah, I think that most of when people want to do change, it starts two ways. It starts because they don't have money. It doesn't start because you don't have money, and then you look at what your neighbors did. And then you don't call the professionals in and ask the professionals what you need. You assume from your neighbors that that's all I need. And that's where a lot of the failures come in, the bad process for the bad roads. See it all the time. And again, you got professionals out there, call us. We're here for you guys any day. Doesn't matter, 3, 4, get different opinions on your roads. That's the best thing I can suggest to anybody in here.
Amen. All right, guys, I encourage y'all to come out to the demos this afternoon. I'll be hanging around. I'm going to be on the scrub seal section. If you guys got any questions, I'll be here the rest of the week. And again, thank you so much for your time this morning.